Boris had VDL's number through new overhaul of Whitehall open up countless trading opportunities. British firms will be given a better chance of winning multi-million contracts to help build new hospitals, schools and roads under a major post-Brexit shake-up of Whitehall rules, the Daily Express has learned. Ministers are to rip up government procurement regulations dating back to the UK's membership of the EU, covering suppliers for large public projects totalling around £300 billion a year. Officials say the current system, imposed by Brussels and rolled over into UK law after the country's withdrawal from the bloc, are too bureaucratic and restrictive. They want a new streamlined procurement system across Whitehall departments that boosts homegrown small and medium-sized firms and prioritises creating local jobs rather than only benefiting multinational corporations. New rules planned by ministers will also make blocking firms with a track record of failing to deliver value for money for taxpayers simpler. The move follows the collapse 2 years ago of the outsourcing giant Keir. More than 3,000 jobs were lost and 450 public sector projects including hospitals, schools and prisons were plunged into crisis by the firm's failure. Steve Barclay, the Cabinet Office Minister and Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster who is leading the shake-up, told the Daily Express, "Leaving the EU gives us the perfect chance to make our own rules for how the government's purchasing power can be used to promote strong values. While doing so we're increasing transparency and ensuring that procurement remains fair and open. These simpler and more flexible rules will also make it easier for small businesses to win work, placing levelling up at its heart." Mr Barclay's shake-up is part of Boris Johnson's levelling up drive, which aims to spread wealth and prosperity more evenly across the country by prioritising investment and growth in previously neglected regions. He will publish the proposed new rules on Monday in the government's response to a consultation process launched after a Green Paper policy document released earlier this year. Under the shake-up, ministers responsible for government procurement decisions will be able to give more weight to bids that create jobs for communities, prioritise the economic recovery from the COVID pandemic and support the transition to net zero carbon emissions. They will be able to take social value factors into account rather than making decisions on the basis of price alone. Community leaders are expected to get a great say over investments that could boost the local private sector. Brexit Minister Lord Frost said, "These reforms are just one of the many areas where we are taking advantage of our exit from the EU's rules to design a procurement system that is better tailored to the UK and our economic needs. They will open up new opportunities for our small businesses to win public contracts, boost efficiency and competition, and deliver better results for UK taxpayers." Under the new rules, ministers will be able to block companies with a track record of poor delivery, fraud or corruption from winning public contracts. Small and medium-sized firms, which currently account for around a third of public expenditure, will be given an easier process for bidding and winning government contracts. In a break with the previous rules, ministers will be permitted to take the potential for creating new businesses and jobs in the UK into account in contract decisions. Hundreds of complicated and bureaucratic regulations inherited from Brussels will be torn up in the overhaul. Ministers are expected to gain more discretion to exclude previously poorly performing suppliers, such as those who have not delivered previous projects on budget or on time. Suppliers will also be banned if they have undertaken unethical practices, such as a lax approach to safety, or where there are national security or environmental concerns. That contrasts with the existing rules, where suppliers can only be excluded from winning new government contracts if there has been a significant breach of contract in the past. New transparency measures will also be introduced to allow taxpayers to see exactly how their money is being spent and compare expenditure across a range of services. Meanwhile, companies with a track record of poor delivery, fraud or corruption will be blocked from winning UK public contracts, the government announced as part of its post-Brexit reform of procurement rules. With this change, the UK will depart from current rules, which were set by the EU, and only allow the government to ban companies from bidding for new public work if there has been a significant breach of contract. The new rules, detailed in a consultation response published Monday, aim to reduce bureaucracy for businesses bidding for public contracts, place greater emphasis on social values so contracts don't always go to the lowest bidder, and exclude unreliable firms. Leaving the EU gives us the perfect chance to make our own rules for how the government's purchasing power can be used to promote strong values, said Cabinet Office Minister Steve Barclay.